Hello, everybody. It's Dave Robles with Think Real Estate, bringing you episode 33 of the Great California Corona Staycation Show. How's everybody doing? We are blessed with incredibly good weather right now in Southern California. We're at 90 degree, feels like early summer, and it's just a beautiful day out there. So I hope you're out taking advantage of that. The smiling face next to me is Trina Churchill. She is an artist from Denmark. She lives in Los Feliz, and she's toured, and her art has been shown internationally, and she has a really cool project that she's going to tell us about. Trina, welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you, Dave, and thanks for inviting me along.
Well, when I heard about what you were doing, I thought, oh, I would love Trina to be on and talk about it, because, you know, it's, to me, it's just, oh, well, you tell everybody what it is, because they'll get it when they hear about it.
Yeah. So I recently launched a new project that's called Together Now. And of course, it has to do with inspired by everyone being kind of stuck at home and on quarantine. And, you know, our lives are taking a whole different turn these days. Yeah. Some are sick and some are not, but we all share being, you know, in our own spaces with our families or roommates, or some are by themselves. So originally, I had just moved my studio home, actually, to our home garage, and that happened kind of coincidentally. But my very first thought was, well, I'm here now, and how can I integrate my neighbors in what I'm doing? It was started kind of like a lot more localized project. Mm-hmm. And then from that point, I thought of it in sort of larger terms, like, well, what if I ask people to send me their pictures, you know, how they're doing, who they with, and so, yeah, so that kind of got me thinking in that direction. And so I created this project called Together Now. And basically it is, people will send me a picture of themselves wherever they are, wherever they hang out, be it with their roommates or family or by themselves. And then I paint it. It's really quite simple. It's just a painting of their situation right now.
What an amazing idea. I mean, the entire world is experiencing a similar event.
Right.
And I can't think of a time when that has ever happened.
Right.
When the entire world is going through the same thing.
Yeah.
And everyone's doing it a little differently, but it's a moment in time that we will never forget. I mean,
sure.
100 years from now, people are going to tell stories about the great 2020 pandemic. And
I mean, I can't imagine that we aren't going to come out of this a little bit changed, all of us, you know.
For sure.
And have something, I mean, on the upside, we have something in common now, everybody across the globe, you know.
Across the globe. So you've taken like a picture someone sends you and turned it into a painting, capturing that moment. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to go ahead and share right now one of those paintings. There we go. Tell us about this.
So this painting is Jude, and that was actually my very first picture I got sent. It's from the UK, from Cheshire. It's the city of Cheshire, Cheshire. Maybe I'm not pronouncing it correctly. But his mom and dad actually did have the COVID, and so they were younger. They were managing, but obviously really hard when you also have a 2-year-old. So she sent me a picture of him where she said, you know, I sent you this picture because I was looking at Jude the other day, and I just feel like this picture kind of captured the moment. And I couldn't agree more. I mean, the kid is on his favorite football.
Right, which he may not be able to play with as much.
Not being able to play with it. And he's looking outside on their garden. And just, you know, too young to really understand what's going on, but, you know, understanding that things are a little bit different. And she also told me that he was about to turn 2. So it's like a few days before he turned 2 that she sent me that picture. So anyway, so that was my first one, and I sort of created his interior world in the gray, and then we have this rich outside that he's longing for.
Right. That's beautiful. I love it. I love it. So I understand that you are inviting people to
Yeah,
send you a photograph of them staying at home. I mean, big sheltering in place, essentially.
exactly.
And if there's pictures that strike you and inspire you, then you'll turn that into an oil painting or to a painting.
Yeah, so I paint from that photograph, and then the photos that I chose to work from, I'll send back the finished result, not the original, but an archival print. So those archival prints are really good, high quality prints. So I'll send them wherever they live in the world. You know, it might have a little bit of a turnaround time before I get to send it back to them, but they're gonna receive the result in the form of these really nice prints.
Now,
So
that's wonderful. What a gift for someone to end up with if they're lucky enough to be chosen to have this memory that will last a lifetime of one of the most unusual times in our lives.
yeah,
That's
I have to say, it's also, I mean, it's a gift the other way around too. You know, it is really quite special to feel that you are connecting with people from really far away places
right.
and sitting in your garage painting their painting. I mean, it is kind of, it feels special. So I'm very happy when people send me pictures and give me something to work on with them.
So share with us a little bit about your background as an artist.
Yeah, so I grew up in Denmark, like you said, and I grew up in a family of my dad was a cartoonist, so we actually had always a lot of fantasy happening at home. You know, we were like our dinners at night were, I mean, looking back at it as an adult, they were pretty unique. You know, you would kind of just riff and come up with stories. Um, so that was sort of my initial, you know, introduction to fantasy and art. And my dad worked at home, so I would watch him do his drawings and his cartoons. And then later in life, we all immigrated to the States as a family. And by that, I was, you know, a young adult. I was 19, I think, 19, around there. And I could, potentially I could have stayed behind, but I decided to come along and go on an adventure with them. And so I think the second year I was here, I got accepted into Otis College of Art and Design. And so that's where I have my schooling from. Including in that, I also did 1 year at or semester at École des Beaux-Arts in Paris. That was kind of an exchange
Oh, wow.
program through Otis. So yeah, I've been fortunate to
Very
have
cool.
some good mentors and teachers.
Well, let's take a look at a couple other pieces here. Can you see that one?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, tell me about that.
That one is, I think I call it the landscape of yesterday. And that one is a little snippet of a bigger, of a photograph. It's a detail of a photograph, I should say, that I found from my mom. My mom had a kind of a supper club with women back in the 70s. And so they did this funny group photo together, and she's one of them. So just kind of carved out a little piece of a little detail of that photo and kind of emphasized on her. And she happened to be standing with a painting in the background, and there was something about the interior and the landscape and her looking inward that appealed to me. You know.
Yeah, I love the jacket she's wearing. You can tell it's very vintage there.
Right, it's very, yeah.
You caught it.
Yeah.
Okay, here's another one.
Oh yeah, that one is called The Gospels from Brussels.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of like that title a lot.
I love it.
And that was I was in Brussels. My husband, he travels sometimes, and I was there catching up with him and had some free time. So I was walking around with my camera and came across, at first I heard this beautiful singing from afar, and I couldn't really figure out where it was coming from. And then all of a sudden I turned a corner, and then these gospels were singing there on the sidewalk in front of a supermarket. And I thought, this is pretty incredible. So I took a bunch of photographs, and then once I was back home in LA, I painted them.
Wow, that's beautiful. Ooh, that's a neat one. Tell us.
That one, I think I'm calling it The Oneness of It All. And it is inspired from, again, a photograph. This time is actually of myself as a kid. And in the photograph, I think my mom is sort of introducing us to our pet bird. And in the photograph, the bird is inside the cage. So I chose to set the bird free and let it fly into my hand. And
so tell me about like the dark area behind the bird versus the other lighter area in the picture.
I think darkness, like a black area in a painting, there's a sort of an inbuilt mystery about that. It's sort of like the big unknown. It can be the future. It can be an area you're not completely aware of yet. So I find black. I always like to include a little bit of black in a painting to have that just sort of like a suggestion of something unformed.
Right.
And then just also a little bit of technical aspect. Black is a great way of adding it against something to make it pop a little bit. So in this case, we get the two profiles of the bird and the girl really popping.
Yeah, it really does come out. You're right.
Yeah.
Cool. Let's see what else. Ooh, there's a little party.
Yeah. So that is kind of from that same night of my mom's dinner party. And so the hats, I don't know if you're noticing the hats, but they were all wearing these silly hats with S on it. And I can only imagine that my dad must have been the one who created the hats, and the S would be like Superwoman or something. And so just three of her friends sitting at the table, in a typical Danish, for me, it's typical, like the curtain, you got the PH lamp in the corner.
I think this is a
restaurant, what that
or?
is, but it's like kind of a Danish designer. And yeah.
I think this is at a restaurant or at someone's home?
It's at our home, like growing up.
Got it.
Yeah. And this one is called Girl and Dog. And it's actually my mom. And what got me to paint this painting in particular was that my mom, she's still alive, thank God. She recently got a dog again. I mean, she's about to turn 80. She got a new dog, a puppy, and she hadn't had a dog for ages and ages, and had been talking about how much she wanted to get a dog again. So finally, she got this dog, and so just as that was going on, I was going through these photographs, and I happened to come across one where she's holding, as a young kid, she's holding her aunt's little dog. So this is the now moment to paint her from then. Wow. So that was sort of why I started painting that.
Beautiful.
And this one is called First Friends. Oh. It is, the girl on the right is myself. The girl on the left is Lisa, my first best friend. And where we grew up, we lived sort of at very kind of cookie cutter houses, but on the very edge outside of our homes were a big field. And so I'm sort of like combining a photo I found of the two of us for something that's the equivalent of Halloween. I think that's why she's wearing her Robin Hood outfit. I don't know why I'm not wearing any, but she was dressed up and I wasn't. And then I'm just combining it with a background. This one is a little trickier in the sense that it also is, it's a painting that I painted for another particular project that I exhibited at Castelli Art Space that had to do with Woodstock. So in that show, I was combining the idea of Woodstock with growing up in Denmark in the 70s. And I know that can sound like a far stretch, but what I was getting at with the paintings I was painting is that that time period, what happened then at the end of the 60s, had such a huge impact across the globe. And so growing up in Denmark, there were things that we took for granted that we only were able to take for granted because the generation before us had plowed the way. And so Woodstock became kind of a symbol of that to me.
Very cool. Very, very wonderful. Let me go ahead and stop that. You know, what beautiful work, Trina. That's
thank you.
And we are right now, I want to invite everybody, if you have a photograph and you would like to submit it to Trina, and if she is inspired by it, she'll reach out to you, she'll turn it into a painting. And we're putting the contact information here below so that people can reach out to you if they want to send you a photograph. But what a wonderful project that you've started.
Thank you.
Here. The Together Now project.
That's right.
Trina Churchill.
Yes.
Very cool. Well, thank you so very much for sharing this with us.
Oh my God, thank you.
Well, how much fun. And it's what a great, you know, just a reminder that however different we are in this world, we're sharing this common moment right now.
Yeah.
You know, it doesn't matter where you are, it's on your mind, it's affecting what you do every single day.
Yeah.
I mean, just what an incredible.
I mean, we come from really different circumstances, you know, and culturally and financially, geographically, you know, we all have different situations happening right now. But emotionally, we're going through a lot of the same stuff, you know. It's
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, thank you again for joining us.
Thank you.
Send your photos into Trina.
Yes, please send them away.
Take care, okay?
Thank you.
You're welcome.